Welcome to Green Numbers Data Tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you how to import a CSV file into SAS. We'll start with the basics, and you may get all the information you need within the first couple of minutes, but I encourage you to watch the entire video to find out how to avoid pitfalls and learn some handy coding shortcuts. And to demonstrate how to import a CSV file, I downloaded a file from the California Department of Public Health Open Data site describing COVID hospitalizations in California. And let's go ahead and open that file now. I'm going to open it. See, the default here is Excel, and but Excel doesn't show you the raw data. So I'm going to open it with a text editor named called Notepad++. And if you don't have this, you can open it in Notepad, the regular one that comes with Windows, although it doesn't handle large file sizes very well, and it doesn't have a lot of features that Notepad++ has, and I'll show you what some of those are as we go through this procedure here. We can see here that, first of all, what is a comma or a CSV file? It stands for comma separated values, and these files are also known as comma delimited files. And you can see that there's commas in here, and these commas delineate where the data begin and end. So, for example, on the top column here, or top row here, we have the headers. So we have county, today's date, hospitalized COVID confirmed patients, hospitalized suspected COVID patients, hospitalized COVID patients, all hospital beds, ICU COVID confirmed patients, ICU suspected COVID patients, and ICU available beds. And so the value to the left of the first comma, which is Santa Clara, would go into county. The value between the first comma and the second comma, so this chunk right here, would go into today's date. The value between the second comma and the third comma would go into hospitalized COVID confirmed patients, and so on and so forth. And you can see that there are some blank values here. So there's two commas, but there's nothing in between. So that means that some of our fields, some of our columns, won't have any data. And as we go through this process, you'll see how that can sometimes affect our imports. So let's go ahead and go to SAS and import this data file. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is to use the wizard. So in base SAS, you go to File, and then you go to Import Data, and then you follow the prompts until you download the file. In SAS Studio, you can click this icon here, choose New Import Data, select File, and then here's our CSV file right here, COVID-19 Hospital by County. So if we click on that, we click Open. It doesn't import the file by just running that wizard. It gives us code to import the file. And what we really need is this chunk right here that I'm going to take. I'm going to paste it into our program. I'm going to simplify things a little bit. We don't need this. We can take this path out and replace this ref file right here and get rid of this. It simplifies things a little bit. So what the wizard did was it created a proc import. So an import procedure that imports this data file. The data file here tells SAS the path where the CSV file is stored. DBMS tells SAS the file type, so it's a CSV file. Out is the name of the data set that's going to be created. In this case, it's import. Let's change it to something more descriptive. Let's call it COVID. So we're going to create a data set called COVID, and we're going to store it in the work library. You can store it in a permanent library, but for this video, we're just going to keep it in the work library. And get names equals yes means that our data set has column headings at the top of it. So it will grab those names like county and date and so on and so forth, and put them in our data. So let's go ahead and run this. All right, so let's look at our log. No errors. Let's go back to our data, and we can see that it looks like it imported everything correctly. We have county. You can see what the county field looks like. Here's the date field. It looks like what it did in our raw data file. And also these other numeric fields look like they should. And these two fields right here, hospitalized COVID patients and all hospital beds, these are the fields that were largely blank in all of these records. So everything looks good, right? Well, if we look over at our column information, and we look at county, it's a character field, right? 12 characters. And we look at the date, that looks right. Hospital confirmed COVID cases, suspected cases, is numeric. But when we get down to hospitalized COVID patients and all hospital beds, we see that these are character fields, not numeric, and there's only one character. So how does that affect the data? Well, let's go to some records where there are data in those fields. So let's go to the end of the file here. And you can see that, so typically, hospitalized COVID patients is the sum of hospitalized COVID confirmed patients and hospitalized suspected COVID patients. But in this case, it's not. It's a single digit. So it imported these fields as character fields, and then it only kept the first digit. And it did that because what SAS does with the wizard and what proc import is it looks at the first 50 or so records in the file, and it makes assumptions based on those 50 or so records. And because those records were blank at the top for these fields, it just said, let's just make this a one character field. That ought to do it. But it turns out it doesn't work for us. So we need to do something to fix that. And in addition to that, we see that this county, San Bernardino, is cut off. It should be San Bernardino. Also Santa Barbara, if we look up higher, we'll see that San Luis Obispo is cut off as well. So we need to make that bigger as well, because if we look at our county field, we see that there's a 12 character cutoff for it. So how do we fix that? The easiest way to do that is let's go to our log, and we can see what SAS did. So with that proc import that we ran, all SAS did was create more SAS code, right? So the proc import created SAS code that ran the data step with an in-file statement. And these in formats right here tell SAS how to bring in the data. So it said county should be brought in with 12 characters. Today's date should be brought in with year, month, day. And then if you look, best 32 is the default numeric in format, so that's okay to leave as it is. But here we see these one character fields for hospitalized COVID patients in all hospital beds. So we're going to need to change those two. We're going to need to change this. And we'll do a little bit more than that too, and I'll show you how here. So the way to do that is just to copy from the log this entire section right here. And in base SAS, you can just paste it right in here, and you can go to the search and replace function and click that little box that says regular expressions and do what I'm about to show you. Now I'm in SAS Studio, and SAS Studio doesn't have the regular expressions in their search and replace. So we're going to do this step in Notepad++. So I'm going to show you that here. And it's very similar. Notepad++, it's very similar in format and interface to base SAS search and replace. So if we ran this code in SAS as it is, there's these numbers up front. And these are remnants of the log. And if we ran this, then these would kick out an error because they don't mean anything in the code. So we need to get rid of those. So the thing that we need to do is recognize, first of all, what we need to get rid of. So there's a space at the beginning, and then there's 2 or more numbers here. So what we need to do is do a find and replace. So here it is right here. And I've clicked this regular expression option. And what we need to do is we need to look for a space followed by 1 or more numbers. Now in a regular expression, a number is represented by a backslash and a D. And and this would just be one number. We're looking for 1 or more. So if we put a plus, that means we're looking for 1 or more numbers. So we have a space followed by a number, 1 or more numbers. And look, we have all this other space here between the last number and the rest of the text. Let's get rid of that as well. So let's put another space in here, put a plus in here. Now, this probably isn't going to be a problem for us, but just in case, let's let SAS know, or let's let Notepad++ know that we're looking for a space and numbers at the beginning of the line. And the beginning of the line is indicated by this caret. So I'm going to put that in there too. This has to be in replace mode here, and all of this has to be highlighted as well. Let's put Control A so that is all highlighted. Now let's do replace all, and there it goes. We got rid of those numbers, we got rid of the spaces. Now we can take this, go back to our SAS code. Let's paste over this code right here, paste it in there. Let's do a little bit of formatting here. Let's take this, make this look prettier. Put some indentations in there. Do that. And also there's some SAS macro coding that we don't need for this. Get rid of that as well. So what we have left over is a data step. So we are creating a data set named COVID in our work library. The in-file statement tells SAS where we can find our CSV file. The delimiter is a comma. So we have a comma separated values. Our delimiter is a comma. Let's put that there. Missover. Missover tells SAS to keep reading the record even if a missing value is found for one of the variables. And we have missing values in our data, so we need that. DSD tells SAS to ignore commas that are set inside quotes. So for example, if I went back to our data here and say, for example, that instead of Santa Clara County, it was Santa Clara, California County. Now, if I left this in there as it was, then Santa Clara would go into county and California would go into today's date because there's a comma. We added a comma in here and so SAS would interpret this as a delimiter. But if we encase this value in double quotes, then SAS knows to put all of this to ignore this comma as a delimiter and treat it as a literal and put it directly into county. So I don't think that really applies to us, but we'll leave it in there anyway. It doesn't hurt to have it. LRECL is the default maximum record length. So 32,767 is as long as the record can be in your in-file statement. So basically, this only goes to, what was that, column 57. So it's far, far, far more than we need, but it doesn't hurt to have it. So we'll just leave it there. And first obs equals 2. So we have a header that has our header information in it, and the data don't start until row number 2. So we leave that where it is. Now our in formats. So if you recall, county was too short. Let's make it bigger. Let's just make it 25, just to make sure we have enough room. It's probably more than we need, but that's all right. Today's date was okay. It imported correctly, so it was in the format of year, month, day, which is what this in format is. And in the description, I put a link that where you can go to look at the different in formats for SAS. It might be helpful for you as you try to import your CSV files. Best 32 is the default numeric in format, so it's okay. We'll leave that there as it is, but we got to make sure that we replace this $1. So the dollar sign means it's a character field or a string field. So we're going to replace that with best 32 and make that numeric. So our in formats are all set. Now SAS knows how to import the data. If we didn't, like for example, if we put this in as DDYY10, let's do that here, then SAS is going to look for that format here. It's not going to recognize it, and it might kick out an error. It might import it incorrectly. So we want to make sure that we have it in the right way. So just like that. But in the format statements down here, we can change this, right? If we don't like year, month, day, we can change it to month, day, year, because SAS has imported this date as a SAS date, and that's just a numeric value, and that numeric value can be formatted any way that we want. So let's change it to month, day, year. Likewise, we need to change the county to 25 down here as well. Let's change these numbers to comma 10. What this does is it'll add a comma in the thousands place. Some of the numbers are in the thousands. It just formats it a little bit better. Let's go ahead and do that to all of these numeric values, including these ones that are still character in the format here. There we go, there we go, there we go. And then the last thing we need to do is in this input statement. This tells SAS to go ahead and import these columns. And again, the columns that are followed with a $, meaning that they're character. We made sure those weren't character anymore, so we need to make sure we get rid of that. And then we are ready to go. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to press F3. We could hit that running man. Check the log. Looks like everything worked out okay. So let's go ahead and look and see if those issues we discovered initially are now corrected. So county is still a character field, but now it's 25. And if we go to the end of the file, we see San Bernardino is now San Bernardino. Santa Barbara is now Santa Barbara. So we look good there. What about those two? What about those two fields that were one character and they were supposed to be numeric? So first of all, we look over here. We can see that all of these are now numeric. And if we go over here and we look at those two columns, now we see that all the numbers are as they should be. So now this plus this does equal this. And we can even see how our formatting was applied. Comma 10 was applied. It puts a comma there, so it makes it a little more readable. And that is it. The last thing I wanted to show you is just how to save this. This way, every time you download this file or a future iteration of this file, it's imported in a standard format. This makes it a lot easier to combine data sets if needed. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's name it something more descriptive. Import COVID. I think I did something weird there. I don't know if I saved it over here. I saved it under my COVID folder, which is good. All right. And that's it. So yeah, check out the links in the description to find more detailed information about the information presented. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to get more content. And thank you for watching.